Hey, what a week. What a week in the sports world. March Madness got underway. A lot of moves made in football and baseball. LeBron James moved up to number two all time in the scoring list, passing Karl Malone. And of course, there's also the madness that's going on in the NHL. There are 40 days. Yeah, there are 40 days remaining in the season, and things are getting intense. The Avalanche's groove appears to be back. Um, the Rangers are getting out of their lull and they've started winning key games, especially two key games this weekend. They won in Tampa Bay and in Carolina, two heavyweights in the Eastern Conference. Uh, like I said, many moves been made. The big one being Claude Giroux going to Florida in that trade. Um, Toronto can't seem to get over the hump and pass one of the Florida teams, and the race in the West is getting interesting. I think Vegas is starting to get their mojo back. They've been winning a few games lately, including beating Florida. Yeah, they beat the Panthers. So with all that, here's how things look with 40 days left in the regular season. Let's start with the Eastern Conference. In the East, the top three remains the same. It's the Hurricanes, Rangers, and Penguins. Hurricanes lead the way with 88 points. The Rangers and Penguins both have 85. They played the same amount of games, so the next tiebreaker is regulation wins, and the Rangers have that covered, 34 to 31. In the Atlantic, the order's still the same. It's Florida, Tampa Bay, then Toronto. Florida joined the 90-point club. Um, they have a 6-point lead over the Lightning, who are still ahead of Toronto by 1 point. And Toronto now has Boston, still has Boston kind of at their heels. They're they're right behind them, 2 points behind them. Boston and Washington are still in the wild card spots. That's going to be the top eight for the rest of the season because the East, below that, it has been like this for weeks, for many weeks. Be, Below, when you get past Washington, it's just nothing but it's just horrible. 13 points separate the Capitals, who are the last team above the line, and the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are the first team below it. Yeah, yeah. Those eight teams, those 8 teams are going to be the playoff teams of the Eastern Conference. Only thing left to decide is where they finish, what order they finish in. That's still up for grabs. But those 8 are going to be in uh, lock, stock, and barrel. It's just a matter of time. As far as the Western Conference, the Avalanche are still number one overall, 93 points. The last two being earned on my birthday this past Friday. I went over the Sharks. So the Avs have a 16-point lead in the division. We're up by 9 in the conference because Calgary still keeps winning. It's Colorado, St. Louis, and Minnesota. That's been a tight race. The third place slot between them and the Predators, and of course both teams are 1 point behind St. Louis. So really, it's those three. It's those three competing for second place because they're not catching the Avs. Not even close. In the Pacific, it remains the same. Calgary, LA, and Edmonton. Flames with 84 points, 9 points ahead of the second place Kings, who are barely hanging on to second place because Edmonton's getting back on track. They have won 5 in a row. Remember, I used to kind of mock this team. I mocked this team about a few weeks ago, saying this team is screwed. They're not going anywhere, and they missed the playoffs. Connor's going to leave, and probably take Drysdale with him. it kind of looks like playoffs are an inevitability for the Oilers. They have found their groove. They've won five straight. They're 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're just they're just a well machine at the moment. No pun intended. And I do like that this is the top three because it reminds me, even though I'm a bit too young to know about this, but I've read the stories. It reminds me of the old Smythe division because older hockey fans than me. Of course, I turned 37 this weekend, but that's still too young for me to really remember the hardcore heyday of the '80s because I was born in '85. Uh, but the Smythe division, of course, was Calgary. It was Calgary and Edmonton. Those are the two top teams in the old Smythe division. The Alberta teams, which made that rivalry just great. Remember, they won. I think they won six. I think they won six Stanley Cups played between '84 and '90. They won six. The only other one was Montreal in '86. But those two were good. Then the Kings were in that contention too, and they really got intense once they got the great one in that trade. But yeah, Calgary, LA, Edmonton. That was like the core of the old Smythe division, and right now they're the top three in the Pacific Division. It's pretty fun. Which means if if it stays that way, if it stays that way by the end of April 29th, two of these teams are gonna play each other in round one. That's gonna be something. Now, if LA somehow catches Calgary and wins the division, we're gonna get the Battle of Alberta in the playoffs. It's been a while since we've gotten that, but that's gonna be delicious. Calgary and Edmonton going at it for 7 games. Ooh, ooh, sign me up and I'll get my popcorn ready. But let's get to the wild card. The wild card is Nashville is in the wild card standings, but only because they are tied with Minnesota. But Minnesota has 2 games in hand over them, so it's pretty much a hell of a dogfight. Nashville is the number one wild card. Vegas is still hanging on to that second wild card, but barely. They once found themselves. I think it was on Thursday. They found themselves below the playoff line when Dallas won, but Vegas beat Florida to move back above it. So they weren't down there for long. But the fact is, they could end up there longer than a few hours. But um, yeah. So Vegas has 72 points. Dallas has 71. The Jets, who just came off a win over the Blackhawks, has 68 points. Vancouver does too. They lost at home in overtime to the Sabres, which moved them to a tie with Winnipeg, but Winnipeg has a game in hand. The Ducks are 3 points behind both of those teams and 7 points out of the playoff line, and they don't have a lot of games left. They don't. They are running out of games. They have 18 games left, and too many teams are ahead of them. And they have a terrible last 10. 2-6-2 in their last 10. John Gibson has become a hacky sack. Everybody's beating him up. It doesn't look like the Ducks are gonna make it. They're gonna need to win a lot of games they have left, and the 4 teams ahead of them really need to take nosedives. If those things don't happen, the Ducks can just forget it. They can just forget it. But yeah, that's pretty much the story. San Jose has 62 points. They're at 500. They're not going anywhere either. So that's pretty much the story right there. As I said, there's 40 days left in the season. The month of March is nearly coming to the end. Coming to an end. We're in the 20s now as far as the date. And here's what's in store for hockey fans in the upcoming week. Of course, Monday night we got the Habs and Bruins facing each other. Of course, the Bruins got Hampus Lindholm in a trade with the Ducks. So that's the second defenseman they've given up. Of course, they gave us Josh Manson. But that should be good. Boston. It's always fun when Boston and Montreal face each other. Vegas faces Minnesota. I always think of that playoff series they had last year. The Wild almost beat them out, but yeah, Vegas and Minnesota face each other. Avs host Edmonton. We finally get our first crack this season at Connor McDavid. Oh, that's gonna be delicious. Uh, on Tuesday, um, Penguins host Columbus. Vegas goes to Winnipeg again. So I think is it their second meet of the season, or is it their third and final one? But I know it's their second one in Winnipeg. Uh, Battle of heavyweights. The Hurricanes host the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Capitals host the Blues. Of course, Ovechkin's continuing his climb up the goals ladder. He scored his 770th goal tonight. And the ESPN Hockey Night games for Tuesday. Dallas hosting Edmonton. The Kings hosting Nashville. Wednesday, the TNT games are Pittsburgh facing the Sabres and the Blackhawks facing the Ducks. That second game's not really going to matter. The Maple Leafs host the Devils. This is their first game since Saturday, and they'll probably show off their new defenseman, Mark Giordano, received in a trade with the Kraken. Of course, Giordano was the Kraken's very first captain. And the Avs host Vancouver that Saturday. That Thursday, Florida heads to Montreal. That should mark the Panthers' debut of Claude Giroux. The ESPN games, Hurricanes and Stars on the ESPN TV channel. On ESPN Hulu, the Hockey Night games, Blues and Philly, and Kings and Blackhawks. I remember when Kings Blackhawks was a conference final in 2013 and 14. Those were great series, especially that 14 series. We went 7 and Aaron Martinez won in overtime. Just amazing. Friday, it's the Rangers in Pittsburgh on the NHL Network. Avs host Philly. That would have been interesting had Giroux chosen to be traded to Colorado. That was the rumor, but it didn't happen, obviously. Saturday, Bruins Islanders on the NHL Network. Blackhawks and Golden Knights on ABC. There is talk on if Fleury's going to be moved. To run out of time because the trade deadline's early tomorrow. Wild and Blue Jackets, ESPN Hulu Hockey Night telecast. And on Sunday, March 27th, it's the Islanders in Tampa Bay, who faced off in each of the last two Final Four matchups. I have to say Final Four because in 2020 it was the conference finals. Last year there were no conferences. It was the Stanley Cup semifinal. But they faced off back-to-back years. Tampa Bay and the Isles on TNT. So, yeah. So that's pretty much what we have to look forward to in the upcoming week. Of course, that Sunday is the last. That next Sunday is the last Sunday of the month of March. 40 days left of the season. It is going to be an interesting run, and I'll be back to recap everything on the following week. If you like this story, click the like button. Click subscribe if you want more. My story on Vocal about the Carolina Hurricanes. Yes, I wrote a story about the Hurricanes. It's up on Vocal. It'll be in the description below, so check it out when you can. And I will be back next Sunday night after all that action's over to recap everything for the past week. No playoff spots been clinched yet, so stay tuned.